I never imagined that my greatest life adventures would unfold through animation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun shone bright, but darkness lingered in my heart. My fingers trembled as I gripped my sketchbook, the paper crumpled from countless erasures. I was lost, drowning in a sea of colors and shapes, a world teeming with potential yet utterly evasive. I thought I could capture my dreams on those pages, but instead, I felt the weight of disappointment crushing me. My family didn't understand. My father, a lawyer, pushed for a stable career, while my mother sighed heavily, her worried eyes pleading for me to make a sensible choice. I felt like a ghost at the dinner table, draped in silence, my heart aching for their acceptance. My only solace rested in best friends Elena and Max, who cheered for me in my corner. Their laughter, vibrant as my sketches, filled the empty spaces. Yet, even their support felt like a bandage on a gaping wound, but that day something flickered. It began with a twinge in my chest, a whisper of mystery that danced on the edges of reality. As I doodled in the cafe corner, a strange figure appeared on the paper. It wasn't just a character, it was alive. I blinked, heart racing, when the figure winked back at me. My breath hitched, and a shiver crawled down my spine. In that moment, time stilled. People around me continued their lives, unaware of the magic unfolding at my fingertips. I leaned in closer, ink-filled thoughts swirling as if the world outside faded into a blur. The figure beckoned me, daring me to follow. I hesitated, fear coursing through me. What would happen if I crossed that line? What if this was all a fleeting illusion? I felt trapped between two realities, both pulling at me with equal force. My heart raced, each beat echoing in my ears, as if urging me to make a choice. Suddenly, my sketchbook glowed, threads of electric blue spilling from the pages. Was it a trick of the light? I could hardly blink, my breath caught in my throat. In that moment, I felt the pressure of a decision weighing heavily on me. Would I step into a world crafted from my own imagination? Would I give up the familiar for the unknown? Around me, murmurs erupted in shocked whispers, eyes darting over my shoulder as if they sensed something extraordinary. I closed my eyes. Will I embrace this animation? Or will I retreat to the safety of reality? I clenched my jaw, uncertain, heart racing, wondering if I was ready to unleash the adventure of a lifetime. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I stood there, my pulse hammering in my ears, uncertainty spiraled through me like a whirlpool. I felt invisible threads of possibility weave around my heart, yet the weight of my reality dragged me down. Did I dare follow the beckoning figure into a realm that could bring both creativity and chaos? My instincts screamed at me to back away, but the glow emanating from the pages seemed to know my desires. It yearned for liberation, just like me. A soft voice broke through the symbolic chains of hesitation. I turned to see an elderly man seated at the adjoining table, his eyes twinkling with a mischievous gleam. Don't let fear anchor you, my dear. The most wondrous tales are woven in the fabric of the unexpected. What's life without a little adventure? There was something about his words that struck a chord deep within, resonating with the flickering hope I had tried to suppress. Swallowing hard, I focused back on the sketchbook. I could still see the figure waiting patiently for my consent, a knowing smile on its face. Fumbling for something to ground me, I reached for my pencil, hesitating. In the flickering cafe light, I could see my friends, unaware of the magic hovering at my fingertips. How would I explain this to them? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the doubt, but Monkey's voice echoed in my mind. We only have one life. Do what you love, Amy. And with that thought, I drew a bold line that transformed into a swirling portal in the center of the page. The room held its breath as my creation shimmered, then pulsated, consuming my fears and igniting a burning curiosity within me. The atmosphere shifted, the chatter dwindling, and I felt a pulse of warmth envelop me as the portal expanded. In a moment that felt both an eternity and a heartbeat, I dove headfirst into the light, the world collapsing and expanding around me. Colors ignited with impossible brilliance. Time danced languidly, and laughter rippled through the air like a symphony. As I landed, I tumbled into a magnificent world filled with oversized flowers giggling and animals chatting. The pull of triumph surged like electricity through my veins. Maybe here, unfettered by the chains of expectations, I could sculpt stories that would shimmer with possibility. Yet, it was not long before the euphoria started to dim, replaced by an unsettling whisper of doubt. While fragments of dreams floated around me, weaving themselves into life, shadows flickered in the periphery. I spotted figures that seemed intricately familiar yet estranged. Characters my old sketches and ideas were alive, clashing and fighting each other. "Stop. We need to create." One cried, vibrant and passionate, but it was met with a dismissive scoff from another, sketched in gloom and doubt. "You think this is art? That flimsy imagination can save you?" Their argument grew heated, sending tremors through the landscape so that flowers wilted and laughter ceased. This chaos mirrored my own internal conflict, the very thing I had tried to flee. It was a battle of confidence and fear, each character struggling for dominance in my heart. The weight of their strife raised a chill, and I took a step back. My own creations were at war, spilling my insecurities into the skies, tainting the beauty I had dared to hope for. "Why are you here?" A soft voice startled me. I glanced down to see a small creature with vibrant fur and big, soulful eyes watching me intently. "Your heart is heavy, and it weighs down our world." "I wanted to create something beautiful," I stammered. "But I don't know how to silence my doubts." The little creature tilted its head, understanding etching wisdom into its expression. "You must embrace your darkness too. Only then can you truly create." Its gaze pierced through the veils of my soul, illuminating shadows I had tried to bury. A flicker of hope sparked inside me, but just as quickly, a haunting realization unfolded. The essence of creation could not be divided. The beauty could never exist without the struggle. It felt like the ground beneath me trembled. Suddenly, the chaos surrounding me surged forward, anxious fingers grappling at my heart. A terrifying vision burst forth. What if I wasn't meant to succeed in this magical world? What if these creations, forged from my own fears, left me lost forever? The laughter grew frantic, the figures swirling around in panic, and the shadows crept closer, eager to consume this fragile creation. It was a dizzying reminder of the reality. I had fled the expectations, the fears, the heavy disapproval that loomed over me like a dark cloud. Terrified, I stumbled backward into the arms of the swirling portal. My mind raced, facing the realization that my adventure was as fraught with challenge as my mundane life had been. As I felt myself being pulled away, the small creature's voice broke through the maelstrom, rising like a beacon in the darkness. "You have the power. Embrace your fears. Fight for your beauty." With those words lingering like a haunting echo, I glanced back to see the chaos of dreams and nightmares intertwining, and just as the portal closed, I understood. To create, I would first have to confront my own storm, and right then, my heart lurched. I landed back in the cafe, breathless and shaken, the sketchbook still glowing softly. But now the weight of a new challenge pressed down on me. I looked up and saw that the old man was gone. Yet on the table lay a small piece of paper with a cryptic drawing, a shadowy figure standing tall against the light. A chill settled in my bones. What more could this journey demand of me? Was this my destiny or a warning? With my heart pounding and uncertainty swirling within me, I knew one thing. Life, much like art, was full of beautiful messes, and I had yet to discover how to weave mine together. The cafe buzzed around me, a vibrant chaos drenched in laughter and clinking cups, but all I could feel was the resonance of uncertainty curling within my heart. The cryptic drawing stared back at me from the table, its shadowy figure a silent challenge. Every pulse of regret that lingered from my encounter in the world of dreams made me question my aspirations. Maybe I had been foolish to believe I could capture beauty in the midst of such inner turmoil. I felt the curious eyes of my friends darting my way, their chatter rising and falling like waves. They were oblivious to the storm brewing in my soul, and I feared their concern would only deepen the crevasses of my insecurity. I tucked the piece of paper into my pocket, a reminder of both the promise and peril of creativity. As I left the cafe, my body moved on autopilot, but my mind spiraled like a whirlwind. I had to confront the shadows I had seen. They weren't just figments of my imagination, they were reflections of my doubt, each one a piece of me I had neglected. The thought was paralyzing, yet somewhere beneath the weight of fear, an ember of determination flickered, igniting me with the notion that perhaps the shadows had something to teach me. Sunlight drenched the world outside, bathing everything in golden hues. And for a fleeting moment, I felt warmed by hope. The vibrant colors of life collided with the remnants of the dream realm, and I suddenly longed for artistic liberation as fiercely as I had craved it just hours ago. With an unexpected burst of courage, I made my way home, flipping open my sketchbook as I walked. The pages, once blank and daunting, called me with promise. Landing in my room, I hesitated. I could feel the pieces within me quivering, as if pleading for release, but I also felt the presence of self-doubt lurking in my peripheral vision, whispering taunts that echoed like curses. "You'll fail. You don't belong in that world." It was such a familiar voice, one I had battled too many times, yet today it felt different, sharper. Clenching my teeth, I took a deep breath and set my pencil to the page. I sketched the shadowed figure from the note, letting the lines flow freely. I worked with fervor, an artistic catharsis unearthing feelings I had long hidden. The figure morphed into something more, a radiant character standing against the tides of darkness, defiant and strong. Yet, even as my pencil danced passionately across the paper, the shadows of doubt loomed, threatening to eclipse my creativity. Hours passed, and with each stroke, an emotion intertwined, weaving itself into the fabric of my creation. I captured the chaotic essence of my fears alongside the burgeoning joy of expression. It was as if both rival factions were merging into a tapestry of existence, a beautifully flawed masterpiece reflecting the truth of my soul filled with both light and shadow. Just as I felt a surge of accomplishment welling within me, an ominous knock sounded at the door. My heart raced. Who could it be? It was late, and I wasn't in the mood for unwelcome visitors. Cautiously, I took a step back, glancing toward the door with unease curling around my heart. "Hey, it's me, Monkey." Her voice was bright, laced with oblivious cheer. Despite my reluctance, I swung the door open a crack, her exuberant smile breaking through the darkness that had settled in my chest. "I heard you were back. Can I come in?" She bounced on her heels, radiating energy that seemed to lighten the atmosphere in my room. I hesitated. Part of me craved that connection, to share the wonder and the turmoil of the day, yet the other half feared judgment. My self-doubt loomed larger than the doorway. But, as if sensing my hesitation, her eyes sparkled with unwavering confidence. Perhaps sharing this moment would grant me the courage to confront my own shadows. "Okay," I relented, stepping aside to let her in, a surge of relief washing over me. "I was just working on something awesome." Her excitement was contagious as she crossed the room, her gaze landing on my sketchbook. "Whoa, is that what I think it is?" Suddenly embarrassed, I instinctively closed the book, shielding my vulnerability. "It's not ready, it's just a draft." Monkey tilted her head, a knowing look on her face. "You're afraid it isn't good enough," she surmised, her voice softening. "But that's the beauty of the process. It's about what you create, not whether it's perfect." Her words struck a chord within me, resonating with the silent battles I faced. It was simple and profound, illuminating the way I had graded my worth against standards that were never my own. As I opened my sketchbook again, an unexpected warmth tinged my cheeks. I felt both supported and vulnerable. I saw something today in my dreams. The shadows, they were me, fighting against my creativity. Monkey leaned closer, her curiosity ignited. "That sounds like a powerful experience. What did you learn?" Before I could frame my thoughts, there was a sudden shift in the air. The room grew colder, shadows creeping along the walls. My breath caught in my throat as I clutched the sketchbook tightly, a sense of foreboding washing over me. "What's happening?" I stammered, horrified at the thought of the chaos returning. Monkey's face fell into a perplexed stare, and, suddenly, shadows danced in the middle of the room, shifting and undulating as if alive, a swirl of emotions I had not yet processed. The once comforting presence of my friend now felt strangely distant, as if she was merely an observer in an emerging storm. In that precarious moment, everything I had been grappling with surged forward. The shadow of my doubts blended with confusion and fear, twisting around the figure I had drawn, consuming its light. Panic coursed through me, and I feared I had opened a door to dimensions I could not control. With a shaky voice, I called out, "I don't know what to do. I can't." And just like that, everything fell silent. The shadows paused, hovering, swirling around me as if waiting for an answer, a command. As I locked eyes with Monkey, who looked equally bewildered, I faced the truth. This was not merely about art or creation. It was about confronting the hidden realms within me. Embrace the shadows, I whispered to myself, recalling the little creature's advice. But could I truly face them? My heart raced, every moment stringing out like a taut wire. The shadows seemed to echo my hesitation, their swirling energy drawing closer, and for the first time, I realized something unsettling. In order to embrace my journey, I might have to delve deeper into the darkness than I ever imagined. Would I find the strength, or would I drown in the very creations I sought to master? With the shadows inching forward, an anxious tide against the spark of light, I knew one thing for sure. This journey was just beginning, and the ultimate test awaited. The stillness settled uneasily, the shadows lingering at the edges of my consciousness, swirling with a melancholy beauty that both terrified and intrigued me. Monkey's presence shrank in the charged atmosphere of my room, rendering her a spectator to my chaos. I felt that faint urge to turn to her, to lay bare the complexity of my emotions, but the grip of fear held me captive. "Embrace the shadows," I murmured again, the words tumbling like stones across the dark waters of my mind. But how? How could I embrace something that felt so foreign, so laden with the weight of insecurity? But the shadows seemed to respond, swirling and shifting into shapes, a morose specter that echoed my deepest fears, breathing life into the insecurities that had haunted me. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in their darkness, distorted and shapeless. This looming specter was the embodiment of every time I hesitated, every dream I let slip by for fear of inadequacy, and it loomed larger than ever in that moment. I stumbled back against my desk, clutching the sketchbook, desperate to anchor myself in something tangible. Drawings were my refuge, yet here they had become a hybrid of terror and beauty. Would these shadows, this chaos, find their way into my art, or would they extinguish the flickering flame of creativity within me? "Stop." Monkey's voice sliced through the tension, snapping me from my thoughts. "We need to ground this in something real. Remember what you told me? The shadows might hold lessons." I nodded, her encouragement wrapping around me like a lifeline. With newfound determination, I brought the sketchbook closer, opening it to reveal the figure I had sketched earlier. The scene before me surged with the fervor of raw feeling, the stark contrast of light and shadow, the defiant stance of the figure caught in turmoil. This was more than just a drawing, it was an invitation to confront the depths of me that I had long avoided. "Let's explore it together," Monkey said, her voice steady. "What if these shadows are here to teach you, like you said? What did they feel like in your dreams?" As I pondered, the shadows pulsed closer, their essence entwined with the air around us. But instead of freezing in fear, I began to speak, tentatively at first. "They were haunting, but also familiar," I whispered. Each shadow was like a part of me I had ignored. The doubt, the worry, the unrelenting judgments. An almost imperceptible light flickered in the midst of the emitting shadows as I voiced these revelations. They made me feel small, like I was never going to measure up to who I thought I needed to be. Monkey stepped closer, her expression shifting to one of earnest empathy. "So, maybe the lesson is not about banishing those feelings, but understanding them. They're a piece of you, after all. Maybe they can be guides instead of adversaries." As her words sank in, the chaos in the room began to change. The shadows shifted, morphing into images of days gone by, fraying memories of every ounce of spirited laughter shared with friends, every brush of inspiration struck into existence. They were chaotic, yes, but threaded through them was something beautiful, something authentically me. Maybe I need to honor them, rather than fear them, I said, beginning to feel a surge of fiery resolve. As I put pen to paper, my strokes became bolder, embracing the very shadows I had tried to outrun. With each mark, I transformed the darkness that enveloped the figure on the page, giving it substance, life, showing how light can coexist in the deepest of shadows. Suddenly, there was a sharp crack of thunder outside, startling both of us. My eyes darted to the window overlooking the swirling storm clouds that had appeared without warning. Raindrops began to pelt against the glass like fierce whispers displaced by the uprising wind. Perfect timing, Monkey said with a slight laugh that warmed the chilling atmosphere. Even the world outside is trying to remind you chaos can create beauty. I mustered a shaky smile, the energy in the room shifting palpably. In the chaos, I found a flicker of confidence that had been dormant for far too long. I dashed lines on the page with fresh fervor, confronting each twist and turn of shadow that I felt shattering in tandem with my fears, watching as the figure morphed into an embodiment of resilience. But as I sketched, with each flowing line, a heavy knock echoed through the room, breaking our focus. Startled, I glanced at Monkey, whose eyes widened with surprise, the expression of worry mask slipping back into place. Should we answer? I felt my heart thumping in my chest, my instinct whispering that the shadows were not finished with us yet. Before I could gather my thoughts, another knock reverberated, more insistent this time, the moment charged with an intense anticipation. The shadows twirled faster, deformed figures dancing at the edges, rattled by the imminent interruption. My voice barely broke through as I stuttered. What if it's family? I think you should, Monkey said, her pulse quickening alongside mine. It could be a much-needed sign. You're on the brink of something beautiful here, but it could also be a challenge from the outside world. In that moment of doubt, I realized she was right. Perhaps it was time to face not just the internal wars, but the external ones too. Whatever unfolded on the other side of that door held power, the kind that could either reinforce my journey or further raise the stakes around my already tumultuous expression of self. As I stood and took a deep breath, I knew one thing for certain. Facing the unknown was part of embracing the shadows. With a quick glance at Monkey, whose encouraging smile steadied me, I opened the door. The sudden gust of wind mixed with the rain rushed in, cool against my skin as I found myself staring into the piercing gaze of someone I had long hoped to avoid. The years of distancing, the weight of our last conversation, all pressed heavily against my chest like an anchor pulling me back into my deepest doubts. Hey, the voice was familiar, yet strained. I need to talk. At that moment, the echoes of the past crashed around me, threatening to drown out the spark of newfound clarity that flickered within. Would I fall back into the cycle of doubt, or had I captured enough strength in this newfound journey to face what awaited me on the other side? The shadows swirled ominously, a reminder that the adventure was far from over, and yet something raw and honest hummed beneath the tumult, beckoning me deeper into the light. The sharpness of the rain cascading down melded with a whisper of thunder rumbling in the distance, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake as I faced the figure standing at my door. Time seemed suspended, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Scripted lines of confrontations I had rehearsed behind my closed eyes now evaporated, and I stood there, vacant, unprepared for what was about to unravel. Can we talk? This voice, as broken as the storm outside, sent ripples of history crashing against the shores of my mind. It was Aaron, a name intertwined in threads of joy and regret, a silhouette from a past that felt both haunting and beloved. In that instant, he transformed from a mere shadow of memory into a tangible presence. Now, I finally managed to utter, my voice barely escaping the tangle of emotions grappling within. The vulnerability pouring from him sparked the embers of the heated exchanges we'd had, the unresolved disputes swirling dangerously close to the surface, threatening to ignite again. His gaze shifted to the chaotic beauty of my art spread across the desk behind me. I see you've been busy. Art is therapeutic, I replied defensively, stepping back to create some distance. Or maybe you've just come to criticize. Isn't that what you do best? He bristled, and I caught the flash of hurt in his eyes. You know that's not fair. I'm here because I want to understand. I need to understand us. What is there left to understand? I asked, tears threatening to spill as the tempest within matched the storm outside. You walked away. You abandoned what could have been beautiful for the sake of your own insecurities. The silence held weight, heavy with what could have been acknowledgement or acceptance. Each passing second stretched the taut wires of my feelings. In his eyes, I could see the burden of guilt riding on his shoulders, whereas I felt the weight of betrayal, swirling together like a vortex of emotion. I never wanted to hurt you, he said softly, the sincerity echoing amidst the cacophony of rain. I was scared, terrified, actually. The pressures of life, expectations, they almost crushed me, and I thought distancing myself would give you room to breathe. Distance doesn't create space for growth. It creates nothing but voids, I replied, my voice wavering. I wanted him to see the wounds he had left, the scars left unhealed by time. You could have reached out. You could have tried. I know that now. I wish I'd been stronger. I keep thinking about the last time we were together and how I walked away instead of facing it. He stepped closer, the rain-soaked air thick with unspoken words. I'm here because I want to fix things. I need to understand each shadow between us. I met his gaze, and in that moment, barriers began to crumble. But just as I felt a flicker of hope kindle within me, a hope I hadn't allowed myself to embrace, something unfurled against the backdrop of the storm. The distanced echoes of unresolved emotions crashed in. Can you? I asked, my voice trembling. Can we really go back? I've been rebuilding myself in this chaos, Aaron, and I'm terrified of what a revisit to the past might uncover. Just as his presence sent a thread of warmth through the chill, the door slammed shut behind him. Instinctively, we both turned to the window where darkened shadows began to swirl, a storm brewing greater than the one outside. The flickering lights dimmed, and suddenly, the familiar whispers of doubt wound through the room like ivy creeping up a wall, threatening to suffocate my growth. Stay with me, he begged, his urgency palpable, as if our confrontation could redefine all our narratives. Let's confront this together, you and me. You taught me that shadows can be guides, and maybe, just maybe, we can transform our chaos into something beautiful too. The flicker of hope warred with the weight of the past. I was still so unsteady, despite the ink on my fingers and the inkling of courage igniting in my heart. What about everything you left unspoken? Can we trust what lies in the shadows? I have no answers, he admitted, stepping closer, his soft words threading hope and trepidation together. Only the willingness to try. Don't let fear guide us apart again. And for a moment, the world blurred, the tension gripping the air, vibrating with the potential of renewal. Just as the flickering light steadied, revealing us both cloaked in shadows and clarity, the storm outside erupted with righteous fury, thunder crashing overhead. An ominous boom reverberated, and there, in the raw chaos, as the rain rattled against the window, I felt the tension peak. But then, beneath the violence of the storm, a whispered sound wove through, shattering the moment, drowning out our tentative connection. The familiar toll of the telephone echoed through the room, ringing ominously, piercing the silence between us. I glanced at the phone and felt a surge of impending dread. Answer it, Aaron said, a quiet urgency cloaked in foreboding darkening his face. It might be important. I didn't move. The shadows had warned me so, echoing deeper uncertainties. What if it's just another reminder of everything we were trying to escape? What if it's something else, something worse? Before I could think, the phone rang again, shattering the moment like glass. The air hung thick with uncertainty, the storm swirling outside feverishly. With the courage I'd just begun to gather, I stood uncertainly between the shadows of the past and the unknown future that awaited me, feeling the weight of Aaron's presence anchoring me where the chaos intertwined. As the phone rang for a third time, my heart raced. Perhaps the most critical message of my life lay just on the other side of that call, one that could either forge ahead or sever the thread connecting us. We both braced ourselves, knowing that whatever awaited us beyond that ringing cacophony contained the power to rewrite our stories forever. I never imagined that my greatest life adventures would unfold through animation. The ring of the phone persisted like an overbearing drum echoing in the confines of my mind. I was paralyzed, caught between the fear of seeking answers and the gnawing worry about the ramifications they might carry. With each chime, my heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm, a cacophony spiraling into chaos just as the storm raged outside. "Answer it," Aaron urged again, his voice low and steady, yet tinged with apprehension. "What if it's something you need to know?" I shook my head. "What if it's just a call that throws us back into that pit of confusion?" The vulnerabilities I had worked so hard to stitch together felt fragile, and I feared that any harsh sound might shatter my defenses into 1,000 irreparable pieces. Taking a deep breath, I stared at the phone. What if it's the wrong voice, calling to remind me of everything I lost? Or maybe it's a new chance, he offered gently, his eyes meeting mine with a softness that made my heart ache. Maybe it's a call that you ultimately need to answer, but the uncertainty loomed. I could feel the shadows pulsing around us, the energy electric. Whatever lay within the silence would shift our trajectory, either annihilating the small flickers of hope I felt growing or igniting a resurgence of possibility. With trembling fingers, I reached for the phone. Its weight felt heavy yet familiar, a reminder of countless calls that had defined the rhythm of my life. As I lifted it to my ear, I hesitated, glancing at Aaron for reassurance. In his presence, I felt both secure and distraught, a union of affection wrapped in unresolved tension. "Hello?" I finally answered, my voice shaky. There was a moment of silence before a shaky breath came through the line. Is this Mia?" My stomach dropped. It was a voice I didn't recognize, but one that was etched into a past I had been trying to escape. "Who is this?" I pressed, the wariness that crackled through the phone amplifying my anxiety. "It's Jess from the gallery," she faltered. "I needed to reach you. There's something important. I glanced at Aaron, who shifted closer, his brows furrowed in concern. The name of the gallery felt like both a lifeline and a noose tightening around my throat, each word weighted with the history we shared. "What happened?" I asked, curiosity mingling with anxiety. "It's about the exhibition, the donations you made." Her voice wavered. "There was a theft. A significant portion of the art has disappeared, and they think the words hung in the air, stretching infinitely." I felt the blood drain from my face. The pieces I had poured my soul into, the canvases that reflected not just my artistic journey, but the very essence of my being, were now entwined in an unsettling chaos I wasn't prepared to confront. "No," I gasped, the implication tying a knot of panic in my chest. "It can't be. You said everything was safe." "You said please don't panic," she interrupted gently, though I could feel the tremble in her voice. "But one of the missing pieces, it was the one you created with Aaron in mind." The room shifted, shadows closing in as the distance between Aaron and me evaporated under the weight of her words. I looked up at him, his expression a mirror of the storm raging outside. We had been trying to carve out space for healing, and now the very fabric of our endeavors was unraveling with the uncertainty of loss. "What does that mean?" I breathed, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean it was created with him in mind? That piece has drawn attention, and there are concerns regarding its fate, whether it'll resurface," or she hesitated. And the weight of her silence spoke volumes. I felt time begin to spiral out of control, a maelstrom of emotions sinking deeper within me. "Jess," I urged, searching for clarity in the shadows, "is there anything you can do?" "I'll do my best," but her voice cracked. "You need to prepare yourself, Mia. The gallery's reputation is at stake, and so is yours." Panic clawed at me, an animalistic fear strangling the dim light that had startled to bloom between Aaron and me. My face blanched as reality settled in. Here, in this moment, past pain and potential revival collided. I could feel the echoes of our fractured relationship vibrating in the air like a distant rumble of thunder. "Jess, wait," I interjected, tears beginning to prick at the corners of my eyes. "I need to speak to you in person. Let's meet. We can talk details together. It's important." My heart ached to balance the chaos threatening my spirit with the hope of reclaiming what I had lost. "No promises, but I will try to get everything sorted." "I'll call you back," she replied, her tone earnest. With that, the call ended, leaving a void that felt impossibly heavy. I slowly lowered the phone, feeling both defeated and bewildered. The storm outside seemed to crescendo, the rain beating down relentlessly, mirroring the turmoil within me. What did she say? Aaron's voice pulled me from my reverie. He stepped closer, worry knitting his brow. I opened my mouth to reply, but the words tangled in the dark web of uncertainty coiling around us. Instead, I stepped back and leaned against the wall, the familiar sense of isolation swirling around me once again. The pieces. They're missing. There was a theft, Aaron, I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. And the one that was stolen, it was created with you in mind. The realization settled like a stone, and Aaron looked at me, eyes widening. It was then I noticed something shifting in the storm of his expression, a blend of compassion, regret, and an unmistakable flicker of determination ignited. But more than that, I saw the shadows of doubt emerging again, questions that still haunted him. I can help. We can find it together, he said, his voice resolute and firm. The flicker of hope I had channeled moments ago began to dim as reality crashed down like the rain outside. It felt bittersweet, hovering on the brink of pain and potential, and I could see the shadows darkening once again, threatening to pull us back into the cycles of misunderstanding. Still, as he reached for my hand, something shifted once more. Maybe confrontation would unveil more than just our light. Perhaps secrets and fears would converge in uncharted pathways, revealing unexpected connections and depth. But what awaited us beyond this moment, what shadows remained unseen, was an uncertainty lurking just at the horizon. I could not shake the feeling that the theft was merely the tip of the iceberg, and in this chaos, there might be forces at play that sought to fracture us irreparably. As the storm raged on and the shadows of doubt loomed large, I grasped Aaron's hand tighter, feeling the warmth against my fading hope. We were standing at the precipice of a new chapter, but I wasn't sure whether we were writing a story of renewal or sealing one of despair. The wind howled outside, thrashing against the windows with a ferocity that matched the turmoil in my mind. I felt the warmth of Aaron's hand slipping from mine as I pulled away, caught in a whirlwind of questions and unresolved feelings. Every heartbeat echoed with uncertainty. Every thought bounced between hope and fear, crisis and calm. I can help, Aaron repeated, his voice firm yet laced with worry. But we need to talk to Jess first. We need information. Yes, but what if there's more to this? I countered, tears welling in my eyes as I wrestled with the mounting dread. What if it's not just a theft? What if it's someone who knows us, someone who wants to hurt us? I won't let anyone hurt you, Mia, he promised, drawing closer, his voice softening. I could see the flicker of determination in his eyes. We'll figure this out together. Trust me. Trust. The word hung in the air between us, and as I searched for meaning in it, the shadows morphed into volatile shapes that threatened to engulf me. How could I trust someone when my own life seemed to be a collection of disjointed memories filled with betrayal? Yet, there was a part of me that still believed in the hope that flickered within Aaron's resolve. But just as I was about to express my fears, the phone buzzed sharply, vibrating on the table like an energy whip. I reached for it, glancing at the screen to find Jess' name illuminated against the dark backdrop. It's her. I could scarcely contain my breath, a mix of anticipation and dread igniting within my chest. Answer it, he urged, his voice a steady anchor. With tentative fingers, I swiped to answer. Jess? There's more, she said, her voice a whirlwind of urgency. I've been doing some digging. It's not just the art. There are connections linking your work and a few higher-ups within the gallery to some underhanded dealings. My heartbeat quickened, and I felt Aaron lean in, listening intently. Each syllable from Jess tangled with the haunting echoes of a past I couldn't escape. What do you mean? I pressed, desperation creeping into my tone. What kind of dealings? Financial. I can't say much right now, but I have reason to believe this theft is part of something larger. In meeting with my contact later tonight, the one who tipped me off, she explained. The gravity of her words caused my stomach to churn. If you want to know more, you should come tonight? Together? I glanced at Aaron, panic flooding my senses again. Jess, I can't step back into that world. Not yet, not when everything feels so precarious. You have a choice, Mia. Her voice softened, but there was an edge of insistence underlying her words. But if you don't act now, we might lose not just the art, but pieces of your story that are uniquely yours. You could lose more of yourself. I swallowed hard, torn between the suffocating fear of confrontation and the gnawing need for answers. I looked at Aaron, who had positioned himself close again, his presence grounding me amidst the now rising tide of uncertainty. "Welcome." Aaron's voice cut through the chaos, determination spilling from his eyes. "We're in this together." The storm raged on outside, reflecting the turmoil within. "Okay," I agreed, though dread settled like a thick fog in my chest. "I'll meet you. Just please be careful." As I hung up, the silence was heavier than before, filled with the unsaid fears and fragile hopes for what lay ahead. "We need to be smart about this," I said to Aaron, trying to quell the tremors writhing through me. "If this is connected to something dangerous, we need a plan. You have that right." He nodded. "And I won't let you face this alone." In that instant, my heart brimmed with deep gratitude and renewed purpose, but it wasn't without its own weight. The urgency of the moment draped over us, too heavy to ignore. Still, beneath the surface of dread, threads of connection and loyalty wove tighter between us, stitching together a fragile resilience. Together we would confront the darkness. Together we would plunge into the unknown. It was a reminder that, no matter how turbulent the storm, the light, the flicker of hope had a way of re-emerging amidst the chaos. As we prepared to head out into the storm, my heart raced with anticipation, threading through strands of doubt. What if this unravels everything? I voiced aloud, my eyes on the door. "The threshold of a new journey." It could, but it also might set you free, Aaron offered, his gaze unwavering. "Let's embrace whatever comes next. You're not just an artist, Mia. You're a survivor. We can face this." As I looked into his eyes, a mixture of hope and fear swirled within me, pulling me into the resolve of a woman willing to fight for her narrative, for every piece of art and belief I had sown into my existence. But a faint whisper in the back of my mind warned me. The shadows weren't finished with us yet, and as we stepped into the rain-soaked night, a sudden jolt of dread coursed through me. A familiar figure loomed at the edge of the street, cloaked in darkness, watching us leave. Heart hammering like a distant drum, I stood momentarily frozen, realizing that beyond the art, beyond the chaos, what awaited us might be far more dangerous than we could possibly comprehend. The rain fell in heavy sheets, blurring the world around us as Aaron and I navigated the wet pavement. Each step echoed my uncertainty, making the ground feel unsteady beneath my feet. The hum of city life faded into a muted backdrop, drowned only by the roar of the storm and the relentless beats of my racing heart. "Are you sure about this?" Aaron asked, his voice a low murmur as we approached Jess' apartment. I could sense the tension lurking beneath his calm exterior, mirroring the tempest in my chest. "I need to know," I whispered, my breath catching at the thought of what lay beyond that door. "There are pieces of the past I can't just leave behind." As we reached the building, a sudden flash of light split the sky overhead, illuminating a figure momentarily as it darted into the shadows. My pulse quickened. "Did you see that?" I glanced back, but Aaron shook his head. "It's just the storm playing tricks on you," he said reassuringly. Yet, the unease in my gut gnawed at might felt far too real, too familiar. Before I could respond, Jess opened the door, her expression grave. "You made it," she said, ushering us inside with a quick glance over her shoulder. "We don't have much time." The apartment felt confined, security mismatched with the urgency of our mission. As we settled into the cramped living room, Jess wasted no time diving into the meat of her findings, her words a potent cocktail of revelation and dread. "The theft is only a part of it. There's a network operating within the gallery, money laundering, selling forged pieces, significant cover-ups. That's why your work is tied to this, Mia. You have connections to people that someone desperately wants to hide." My breath hitched. The weight of her revelation crushed me. "But why? Why would they go after my art?" "Because it carries more value than you realize," Jess replied, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "You think those pieces are just canvas and paint, but they're gateways. They hold a story, and tracing those stories might lead to the very heart of this network." A chill swept through me. Those pieces were my lifeblood, the fabric of my identity, yet now they were classified as potential evidence in some dark crime I had unwittingly become part of. What do I do? I felt like I was invisible, overwhelmed by the tide of hidden danger. Let's get you out of here, Aaron suggested gently. We can assess this information from a safe distance. His protective instinct surged through him, bolstered by the pulsing stakes, but still, the notion of retreat stung. No, I want to confront this, I asserted, emboldened by my need for clarity, for control over my own narrative. If there's a chance I can reclaim my life, I can't back down now. Okay, Jess said, her unwavering gaze meeting mine. But first, we need to gather evidence. I have a lead on someone who might know more about the inner workings an artist turned whistleblower. But it's risky and we need to be cautious. Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, and my heart dropped. As I dashed to the window, my stomach twisted in knots. I saw a figure dark, shadowy, and familiar, and the instinctual chill slithered down my spine. It's them. I pointed, my voice barely a whisper. Mia, what do you see? Jess's urgency heightened. It's a man, I stammered, trying to squint through the rain. He's standing right under the streetlight. Aaron came up next to me, his arm brushing against mine, a warm reassurance amid the creeping dread. Can you identify him? I can't see his face, but he seems familiar, like someone I've seen before. Why is he watching us? Anxiety surged through me, twisting with confusion. Is it one of the artists? Jess probed, her tone slicing through the air with calculated urgency. No, I don't think so, I replied, feeling the memories hazily slipping through my mind. He was a friend once, back when I was involved, and I took a deep breath, constraining the emotions threatening to boil over. Was it just coincidence? Or was he following leads that could expose secrets long buried? I need to check this out, Jess said, determination lining her features. Stay here, Ilgo.no. I couldn't let her face whatever danger awaited alone. We're in this together. Well, I'll go, Aaron asserted, and the weight of his promise settled around us like a tangible shield. But as we made our way to the door, a sudden realization crashed over me, knocking the breath from my lungs. Wait, what if he's connected to the gallery? What if he's been following us? The potential for danger loomed ominously above us, as I fought against the fear rising in my chest again. Then we need to get to him first, Jess replied, steeling herself despite the tremor in her voice. We can't wait. We have to take this chance. Pushing the door open, we stepped into the downpour once more, and I felt the raindrops mix with the sweat of impending danger. The night had morphed into something sinister. Every fiber of my being vibrated with the fear of being watched. As we neared the edge of the street, my pulse quickened. I could see the shadowy figure retreating further into darkness, and my heart raced with a fierce determination. We would confront whatever secrets lurked in the night, but as we moved toward him, something icy gripped my heart. What if I had been watched all along? What if this was a trap, designed to unearth truths better left buried? Then it happened. A shadow emerged from behind a parked car, moving swiftly. Mia, look out! Aaron shouted, pulling me back just as a hand reached for my collar, cold and choking, dragging me into the beckoning darkness beyond. In that brief moment of chaos, as I gasped and fought, everything spun in a blurry heart pounding a desperate rhythm against the unknown, the realization that I was about to step deeper into a labyrinth of danger from which I might never find my way back. It dawned on me. The very life I sought to reclaim might forever remain more entwined in shadows than I could ever confront. The rain was relentless, slapping against the pavement like an urgent heartbeat, and as I fought against the grip pulling me deeper into the night, my mind raced. I didn't know who was behind me, but fear struck a chord that resonated in every fiber of my being. Aaron's arm tightened around my waist, pulling me back just in time, but the figure had vanished into the obscurity of midnight. What felt like a breath of relief turned suffocating as my heart skyrocketed in panic. We need to move, Jess urged, her eyes darting back toward where the shadow had been. The tremor in her voice told me that she shared my uncertainty. We couldn't linger here. The air tasted of danger, thick as the falling rain. We ran, slipping through narrow alleyways and under awnings, my lungs fierce with the sting of the cold. I could feel Aaron beside me, a solid presence amidst the chaos, but his grip could only offer so much comfort as we raced away from the danger that had nearly ensnared me. Where are we going? I gasped, struggling to keep pace, my pulse roaring in my ears. Jess has a place nearby, a safe location until we can figure this out, Aaron called back, his voice fierce with resolve. My mind spun with fear and desperation, yet somewhere within me, a glimmer of hope flickered. Maybe we could escape this storm together. We rounded a corner and entered a dimly lit doorway, the faint light barely illuminating the chaos within. The room was cramped, filled with stacks of canvases and scattered papers, the smell of paint mingling with something older, like history trapped in a bottle. I could sense the weight of countless stories laid bare, both inspiring and painful. Once inside, Jess moved quickly to secure the door. "We can't stay here long," she said, her urgency cracking beneath the surface of calm she tried to convey. "But we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with before we move again." Out in the muted night, the storm rumbled, drowning our thoughts in its symphony of nature's fury. I sank against a wall, trying to catch my breath while the enormity of what had just happened seeped into my bones. "Mia," Aaron knelt beside me, concern etched into his features. "Are you okay?" I closed my eyes and attempted to calm the whirlpool inside me. "I'm trying," I murmured, looking at him through a veil of uncertainty. "I never wanted any of this. All I wanted was to create." He took my hand, warm and grounding, and it invoked a wave of comfort amidst the storm's tumult. "You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together." "That man, whoever he was, why was he watching us?" I asked, trying to piece together the fragments of my memory. The thought gnawed at me like a persistent ghost. I had to know, more importantly, who is he? Jess interjected, flicking through her notes, her focus pulling back into the urgency at hand. "If he's connected with the gallery, we have to find out more." "You mentioned you recognized him." I nodded, the details dancing just outside my grasp. "He was part of a collective before everything fell apart. There were whispers, rumors of deals and backdoor transactions that didn't sit right with me. Could he be involved in whatever's happening now?" Aaron glanced between us, the implications heavy in his voice. A silence fell, marred only by the sound of rain hammering against the windows. "I don't know," I whispered, just as uncertainty washed over me once again, like a tidal wave eager to reclaim the shore after every attempt to stand firm against it. "Whatever it is, we need to learn more," Mia, Jess said, her gaze penetrating. "We might be able to dig deeper into the history of the gallery. If there's more evidence tying you to this, we need to gather it now." In the fleeting moments of our uncertainty, a flicker of courage ignited within me. In the midst of my vulnerability, I realized how much I yearned for hope, a piece of something brighter in my darkening world. "I want that," I declared, steeling myself against the shadows that loomed within my mind. "I want to confront whoever is behind this." But before Jess could respond, a creak echoed from the rear of the room, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps cautiously approaching. My heart froze. "That can't be," Jess began, her mouth falling open, but before she could finish her thought, the door swung open, and a stranger stood silhouetted against the rain-splattered backdrop. The figure stepped inside. Drenched but unmistakably familiar, a name clanged like a bell in the depths of my mind. "You're back," I breathed, the shock throwing every emotion into turmoil. It was him, a man from the street, the man I had thought long gone. "Mia," he said, his voice echoing through the room, carrying an air of mystery and desperation. "We need to talk. Now." The world shifted around me, and an intricate web of emotion latched onto my heart, fear, confusion, and an inscrutable thread of hope woven together. I wanted answers, but did I really want to hear them? The ticking clock of my choices echoed in the rising storm, leaving only the sharp bite of uncertainty in its wake. The storm outside raged with an intensity that matched the tempest within my heart as I stood face to face with the stranger who had disrupted the fragile peace we were beginning to forge. "We need to talk. Now." His voice was low, almost urgent, and it sent a shiver down my spine. The chaotic energy crackled in the dim light, and all I could do was blink, frozen in disbelief. "Zach?" The name slipped out like a whisper, laden with threads of memory I didn't think I would ever need to confront again. The moment hung, suspended like the raindrops that pattered against the window, each droplet resonating with the unanswered questions weighing heavily in the air. "Mia, this is serious," he said, stepping closer, his eyes darting from me to Aaron and Jess. "You're in danger. The gallery's theft is just the tip of the iceberg." The room fell silent, each breath heavy with trepidation. A knot twisted in my stomach as the pieces clicked into place. Zach was not just an echo from my past. He was entwined in this mess, someone who could shed light on the darkness that had encroached upon my life. But was he here to help or hinder? "Why should we trust you?" Jess' voice cut through the tension, a note of authority edging her tone. "You just appeared out of nowhere. How do we know you're not a part of this?" I am, he stammered, the guilt etched on his features. "But I'm no longer involved. I walked away because I couldn't get caught in what they were doing. They're ruthless." His words hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and foreboding. I turned to Aaron, seeking his steady presence as a counterbalance to the unease swirling around us. "What do you know about the gallery, Zach? About the theft?" He hesitated, a flicker of fear darting across his face before he spoke again. "I know that they're after more than just your art. They're trying to cover their tracks, and if they think you know too much, they'll come for me," I finished, the realization settling heavily against my chest. "What do I need to do?" Zach took a deep breath, pulling himself up, and for the first time, I noticed the shadows beneath his eye, the weight of secrets carried too long. "You need to leave the city. Tonight. Before it's too late." "Leave? Just like that?" I shot back, but his earnest look pierced through the fear that threatened to engulf me. "Yes. I know it's hard to hear, but you're not safe. If they connect you to any of this, you'll be pulled into something you can't escape." His gaze darted to Jess and Aaron as if he anticipated the heaviness of their doubt. "You need to trust me, Mia. I want to help." The room started to spin, the enormity of his words wrapping around me. "Trust you?" I echoed, the world around us echoing the storm still raging outside. "How can I trust you after everything that's happened? I know it's complicated, but I wouldn't come back if it weren't serious. You mean something to this city. Your art is a beacon for people who can't find their voice. They need to silence that." As he spoke, whispers of doubt crept into my mind. What if he was right? "Mia, think about it," Jess said, her voice trembling slightly. "We can take this information and report it, get the authorities involved. We can't just run." I glanced between them, feeling the weight of their expectations. The struggle raged within me like a storm. Stay and fight, or flee into the unfamiliar unknown. The shadows danced before my eyes, embodying every insecurity that had followed me from the moment I dared to dream. And then suddenly, a flicker of defiance surged within my heart. "You're right, Zach. I can't back down. But if I'm going to do this, I need your help. I need to confront whatever is out there and reclaim my story." Zach looked taken aback by my conviction, but the warmth of my resolve ignited something within him too. "If that's the case, we need to act fast. You'll need your art to everything you've created. It's your armor." He stepped closer, his eyes locked onto mine, piercing through the shadows of uncertainty. "They're coming for it, Mia. We have to get to the gallery tonight before it's too late." I felt the pull of purpose steadying my trembling heart. I looked at Aaron, whose steadfast resolve mirrored my own. "I can't do this without you. Will you help me?" "Always," Aaron affirmed, his grip tightening around my hand. Jess nodded, her eyes fierce, reflecting my own determination. With a deep breath, I nodded at Zach, all fear now tangled within a fierce resilience. "Let's do this." As we stepped out into the chaos of the storm, a sense of clarity enveloped me. Each raindrop that fell against my skin felt like a reminder that I was alive, that I had the strength to confront whatever lay ahead. The shadows were no longer enemies. They were a part of my story, a testament to the struggles I had faced in every stroke of my art, every breath of creation. Determined to reclaim my narrative, my strokes of color and chaos would transcend the storm. I would break free of the chains that had bound me, shedding the weight of every doubt and fear. "Let's go," I called to the night, feeling the thrill of adventure stirring within me, fueled by the promise of the unknown. And as we raced into the tempest, I carried with me not just the shadows of the past, but the vibrant light of my artistry, ready to weave a new tale, one filled with strength, resilience, and hope. No matter what awaited us in the depths of that gallery, I would embrace every twist and turn, for I was finally ready to transform fear into creation and chaos into beauty. And so, as the thunder cracked and the lightning flickered overhead, I whispered into the tempest, I am ready.